Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Amir Khan Show. I'm your host, Amir Khan, and in today's show, we'll talk about a few different things. Number one, we'll talk a little bit about the government shutdown. We'll talk about is our military potentially going private, or is a few parts of our military going private. And we'll talk about the gubernatorial race happening in New Jersey and the mayoral race happening in New York City. Okay, well, let's get started with the government shutdown. Today, as I make this video, is the 31st day of the government shutdown. Now, if you remember, maybe 3 weeks ago, when the government was about to be shut down, a little over 3 weeks ago, I was saying that this is going to be the longest government shutdown and I said that because look at what was happening. The DNC, the people, House of Representatives, the Democratic Party, they were not meeting with the president at all. And look at the semantics they were playing at the very early start of the whole government shutdown. So it had this feeling of like this is bad. And if you listen to people like Chuck Schumer, which is by the way, this shutdown is called the collective DNC Chuck Schumer shutdown, and you listen to people like Hakeem Jeffries, they all have massive TDS, okay, Trump derangement syndrome. And when someone has Trump derangement syndrome, it's like you need to almost like separate yourself from them because whatever factual data you give them, whatever you information you give them, it's going to go right over their head or they'll dodge it, okay? Anyways, so I mentioned this would be the longest government shutdown, and the funny enough, when you think about what the longest government shutdown was, that was back in 2018. It lasted 35 days, and it was under the President Trump presidency. And here we go again, like they did. They held the American people hostage in 2018. The DNC is holding the American people hostage again. All you need is three Democrats to come on board and pass the spending bill. And they continue to vote against it. And when I say they, it's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats that keep voting against the spending bill. They're holding millions of people, American civilians, hostages, along with military folks. And as of yesterday, October 31st, millions of people did not get their stamp benefits. So what's that come down to now? What do you think is going to happen when millions of people can't afford to buy basic groceries? Some of them are going to go and start causing massive burglary to a certain degree, theft, larceny, maybe even to a certain degree, go into grocery stores and just we're going to see a flood of crime happening in the next few days is what I'm saying, okay? And because people have no choice when they can't feed their kids, what do you think gang members do? They join gangs because part of it is because they want to assimilate and be accepted into a family, but also because they want to be able to provide for their families, right? And so when you can't do that, your only objective is to rob and steal. So I think we're going to see crime run rampant in the next few days. So be aware of that. Get ready for that. I think this government shutdown is going to go far longer than we think. Hopefully not. But let me tell you a little bit about something. Let me tell you something, okay? My friends and I were having conversation about this whole government shutdown, and we were thinking about, okay, and I was sharing with them my feelings on this. I think as as awful as this is, I'm almost like there's a little bit of gratifying feeling underneath that I think many people feel that this might be good for the system because we kind of these incentive programs that we have within the government, they need to be uh, looked at. They need a shock because there are so many people that take advantage of the incentive programs that we have. And I think I'm almost a little happy, like, okay, you know what? Let's look at these programs. Let's throw the playbook out of the system and let's start to look at what's happening underneath these programs where number one thing is are you a legal citizen? That's the number one thing. Are you a legal citizen who could take advantage? of these government programs? If you are, great. Then let's go down the list. Um, and so, I'm almost a little happy about this, and I think it's going to do good for our system in the long run. Um, because we're going to start to weave out like people that should not be on these programs, like illegal aliens, like people who have two, three jobs but are working cash jobs and are rigging the system. And there are many people who rig the system, by the way. So a complete overhaul of these programs wouldn't be such a bad idea. All right, let's go into the military being funded. So a few days ago, someone from the Mellon family, when I say the Mellon family, think about like the Rockefellers, think about the Carnegies, think about, again, Mellons. These are ultra wealthy billionaire families that have kind of built America in a certain way with industrializing the banking system, steel manufacturing, so on. So this anonymous person donated $130 million to the military. And, at first sight, you listen to this news and you go, oh, that's great. And then the reports start to come out. This anonymous person was, let me see who this person was. I believe sources are saying this anonymous person was Tim Mellon. It was Tim Mellon, is what the sources say. Okay, so if I was the PR person of Tim Mellon, I would I would fire him or her because this is not a good look. Because what it does is it shows that could our could our government possibly be bought? Could the American military possibly be bought in this case? So look, on the surface, it sounds like a great thing. Like here's $130 million that I'm donating to the military. But with and you think about it and you go, these are billionaires, by the way, and these are billionaires that don't give out raises to their employees without employees having to unionize, having to go through applications to apply for raises, having to work longer hours for lower wages. So here's a billionaire giving out $130 million to the military. Uh, as a blanket thing. So I'm suspicious. I'm very I'm a skeptic. So naturally, I feel a lot of skepticism with this person donating $130 million to the military, and as should most people, because w- there strings attached to this? Could there strings not be attached to this now? But could this person come down later in a few weeks or months and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z. I need a favor. So if I was Donald Trump, I would say, thank you, Mr. Mellon. I don't need your money. Uh, the American people pay into these programs, and we're going to distribute this. We're going to get our government up and running. And also, anybody who's trying to donate money to the military, I would just tell them thank you for your patriotism. You're a compatriot, but we don't need your money. Rather, you take this money and you donate it to other welfare programs that are illegal. So that's what I would do if I was President Trump. I would not accept that money, although it's a good cause. But look, the semantics of it does not play right. Okay, let's go to the next topic, which is the mayoral race happening in New York City. I listened to Mr. Mamdani, and I'm telling you, when you listen to him, he sounds very genuine. He sounds enthusiastic, which he is. But the things he's promising are no different from the Democrats that have promised very similar things a few years back. Like, let's take a look at the rent freeze that he's promising in New York City.
Here is what we stand for, my friends. We are going to freeze the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants and use every resource at our disposal to build housing everyone who needs it. We are going to eliminate the fare on every single bus line and make what are currently the slowest buses in the nation move around this city with ease. And we are going to create universal child care at no cost to parents. So New Yorkers can raise their family in the city they love. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the. Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and. Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal. We will make our city one where every person who calls it home can live a dignified life.
Guys, this is no different from when President Biden said we're going to abolish and get rid of the student loan debt. You can't do that. You can't just wave a magic wand and boom, your the debt, the $2 trillion student loan debt goes away. Just like this guy can't wave a magic wand and freeze rent. Think about the uh, catastrophic, out of control, what's the word I'm looking for? Chain effect that's going to happen if we were to freeze rents in New York City. Okay. People who have houses and are renting them out, or they house hack where they live in one unit and rent out the other, they won't be able to pay their mortgages. This guy is going to fast track the collapse, the housing bubble that already is somewhat systemic um, in the housing market. And this is Mr. Mamdani is someone who has continuously said things like defund the police. Defund the police? What are you talking about, dude? When you're getting beat up or robbed or burglarized, uh, or your car's stolen, or you have a dispute with your neighbor, you call the police, you know? So what do you, when people talk about defund the police, it, it, it's it's like they're not even thinking about what they're saying. We have a society that follows the law. This is what America is about. We have social laws. We have um, that are built on a system to to last. And when you say things like defund the police, free rent, um, free grocery stores, the other effect this will happen when you have all these free things is that who's going to pay for it? Okay, what's going to happen is your taxes are going to go up. People who live in New York City, who work in New York City. So this is not just going to be a singular effect in New Jersey. This is going to have a circular effect around New York City from people like in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, who commute to New York City to work in New York City. Also, New York City doesn't have um, a taxation problem. They have an incentive problem in New York City. There are so many programs in New York City that incentivize people to not work, to not contribute to society. And these incentive programs are just going to be exacerbated with Mr. Mamdani's policies. So please, I urge you on November 4th, go ahead and vote, but be very critical about who you vote for. Think about it. Listen to like the practicality of who you vote on your ballot. Again, I'm very fearful of what's about to happen in New York. And also think about what happened during COVID when taxes in New York City continued to be raised. A lot of wealthy Americans in New York City left. They went to uh, tax haven states like Texas, Delaware, Florida, and that's exactly what's going to happen. You have to understand that the billionaires are not the only people in New York City. There are entrepreneurs, there are businessmen and women. So, New York City, be careful of Zoran Mamdani. This guy also has lied about his aunt not being able to commute to during 9/11, not being able to commute to New York City when he was pressed on it. He had no answer or he changed his answer. So Look, his energy is real because he very much believes what he says, but then also look at his history. He's never had a real job. He comes from a multi-millionaire family. His mom's a director in Hollywood or Bollywood, and his dad's a professor. He's had a wedding that costed over $2 million. Guys, it's interesting. I always say this, the new Democrats versus the old Democrats are drastically different. The new Democrats are insane with these policies. They want free everything when the old Democrats, like a JFK, used to say, ask not what your country could do for you, but what you could do for your country. And now it's like AOC, Zoran Mamdani, the Schumer shutdown, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, they just want free everything. You can't have this isn't socialism. This is a capitalistic society. We've thrived for many years because of capitalism. If you want to talk about crony capitalism, fine. Let's find ways to weed out crony capitalism, like companies in California that are handing out licenses to illegal immigrants. That is crony capitalism. Like George Soros, who should not have been pardoned by President Trump. I completely disagree that President Trump pardoned this man. Okay. I also want to talk about the gubernatorial race in New Jersey, which is where I live. And Mikey Sherrill is a disaster for New Jersey. She's cheated in the military on her exams, which is why she wasn't allowed to walk. Um, this is a lady who, if you ask her, what are you going to do on taxes? By the way, New Jersey has the highest property taxes. And you ask her, what are you going to do about taxes? She's like, I won't promise anything. And you know what that means is because she wants to raise taxes. And you look at someone like a Jack Ciattarelli, who's got a powerful message behind him, who's got an amazing team behind him, and listen to what he says. He talks about lowering taxes in New Jersey. He talks about people, New Jerseyans, who go to college and get a job afterwards. For the first 2 to 4 years, he wants to eliminate income tax so they could save, so they could pay their debt, so they could possibly have accomplished a dream of buying a house. He talks about getting rid of a sanctuary city slash state like New Jersey and New York, where if you're an illegal alien, you could just walk into a house and set up camp there, and they can't do anything about it. These are the radical policies of Democrats, and we need to flip New Jersey to red. Look, I've got tons of issues with Chris Christie when he was a governor, okay? But Jack Ciattarelli is different, and he's got a track record of success. And I urge people to please go out and vote for Jack because Jack's got a powerful message. He knows what he's talking about, okay? And he also talks about cutting jobs in New Jersey. There are plenty of bloated government jobs that we have. They're all middlemen that don't really do anything. They just sit there and collect paychecks on a week in, week out basis. Go out and vote for Jack Ciattarelli on November 4th. I'm a huge advocate for Jack.